She has been waiting in the dark for more than 100 years. The crumbling estate called Wildfell, soaring above the desolate shores of Blackmore Island, has weathered the violence of seasons for more than a century. Which is all you need to know. I'd like to go to there. Wildfell by Michael Rowe. It is a typical book. Pretty cover. Wildfell takes place in Northern Ontario, and I grew up in Northern Ontario, not quite far north, as this takes place in Alvina, which is a place that actually exists. And those who've listened to me talk about Cashtown Corners, I do really like places that actually exist. And I wouldn't doubt that there's a house like Wildfell out there somewhere. This is a old mansion on an island. It's about 100 years old, and the townfolk ignore it. There were some deaths there. Not while it was inhabited, although there may or may not have been some deaths there. I don't want to spoil the book by any means. But it was a haunted house, and teenagers tended to go there and check it out, whether they were drunk or making out or whatever. So the townsfolk really didn't like people going out there because it is dangerous and it's not easy to get to. So when some kids do go out there and one of them meets a horrible end, then people tend to avoid it even more. And then ghost stories grow up around this place. So when Jameson Browning comes along and purchases this place for a steal, I guess he needs a change in life. So he's decided to go out on a limb and buy this old mansion, which I would totally do. Like 100%. Whether I won a lottery or came into money somehow, I would definitely follow in his footsteps. All the way to the dusty attics and the dank basements, I would definitely check out all the stories surrounding this house as well. It starts right out on a creep factor foot, though, because he has had visitations in a mirror. He has an imaginary friend, so to speak, that has haunted him throughout his life. So he carries a little bit of a ghost of his own into this haunted house, a very haunted house, a beautiful haunted house. So if you're interested in things like Shirley Jackson books, old Stephen King, if you like Hell House, if you like stories where the house becomes a character, Amityville stories, stuff like that, Wildfell is right up there with that. And it's a very wonderful telling of a gothic ghost story, haunting, with a male main character, which is a refreshing change, I think. It's got some pretty little signs. The chapter headings are in cursive, which is a really nice touch. I just really like the design of this book all in all. So you tie in that nice little moth motif with the cursive from the chapter headings, and it all ties in the front. Cheesine does a good job usually with the packaging of books and looks of books. And I don't know how much say Michael Rowe would have had in this, but whoever did design it did just a beautiful job. Wildfell has an interesting cover with a front and back match. You get to learn that he is a Shirley Jackson Award finalist with this book, and well-deserved, really well-deserved. It is a very beautiful book, actually. And again, set in modern times. I've been reading a lot of these more modern horrors. People have been writing classic ideas stuffed into a modern time. He handles things like technology, the internet, cell phones extremely well. So anyone who doesn't like the way that a lot of authors handle those things, or doesn't like a book that is all about where you put your fucking cell phone, or people who start out a book with a broken cell phone just to avoid that thing, or are reading historical fiction to avoid that sort of thing. If you want to read it done really well and handled very well, and handled to enhance the creep factor, he does a great job in Wildfell. Also, library scenes. If you're one who enjoys people having to talk to land registry offices, or go to the library, or finding dusty tomes and old paintings, as it were, this is chock full of that, and again done really well, so it doesn't feel cliche, even though I think he hits almost every note as far as a library scene as he goes through the book. So I did enjoy it very, very much and highly recommended it. This is one of those books that was a gift to my uncle last year, and I read it beforehand because it's a habit of mine to usually read books that I'm gifting, unfortunately. I think it started mostly with gifting it to younger people to make sure the books were safe. So now I don't feel so bad about reading gifts. She has been waiting in the dark for more than 100 years. The crumbling estate called Wildfell, soaring above the desolate shores of Blackmore Island, has weathered the violence of seasons for more than a century. Now he has come to her. Jameson Browning, a man well acquainted with suffering, has purchased Wildfell with the intention of beginning a new life, of letting in the light. But what waits for him at the house is devoted to darkness and guards it jealously. Quite. Published in 2013 by Cheesing Publications, it is a typical book, and I, again, highly recommend it. I mean, it's a Shirley Jackson Award winner. What more do you need to know? Canadian horror, published by Cheesing Publications. Yeah. Deeply textured, richly imagined, and with characters that leap from the book, Wildfell is an atmospheric ghost story that grips from the first page, a fine novel that is destined to become a classic. That is from Tim Levin. Tim Levin is a New York Times bestselling author. Recognizable name, especially in Horror Writers Association circles. I've definitely seen some Tim Levin books and heard on podcasts and stuff. I haven't really heard much from Michael Rowe as far as on podcasts, so I'd really like to scour the internet and check out and see if he's talked to people on This Is Horror or any of the other, author interview horror podcasts. Wicked Library now interviews authors as well, so I hope that he has something to say on there, because I'm going to definitely seek it all out, and you should too. Wildfell. It is a typical book. It is so typical, in fact, that I grew up in a house not as grand as this, but haunted similarly and in Northern Ontario, so it really strikes a chord with me. Wildfell by Michael Rowe. It is a typical book.